Welcome to the Talkin Kop. My name is Ashley, and I'm joined in a full house today by my friends Chris, Kev, and Matt. We are all here to discuss the goal fest that was Liverpool 5, West Ham 2. Kev, I'm going to come to you first because you're going to pop in here for about 15 minutes and then you have to go off to work. So you have the privilege of going first. What's your reaction to the goal fest? How do you think we played? And then I'll come to you on a couple other questions before we move on to the other guys.
Look, enjoyed the game first and foremost. It was a good watch. It was nice, refreshing to see two sides going for it at Anfield. I don't think that was the initial plan for West Ham. I think the first few minutes you kind of saw what they wanted to do. They wanted to sit in deep and look to play on the counter, and that looked like their plan until we decided to change their plans by going ahead and scoring. How rude of us to score so early in the first half and then compound it by scoring again and again. Loved it. Now, look, West Ham showed you why they're one of the form sides in the Premier League since the turn of the year. They're probably, I think they were, listening to the commentary, I think they're fourth in the form table for this calendar year.
44% of their points have come in the last 5 games.
Exactly. And you saw, anyone who watched the game against Manchester United saw that they were absolutely robbed and they really should have had 3 points in that one. So look, despite their league position, since Nuno's got rid of Paqueta and brought in a striker that he wants, they're a much better side. And you saw today why they're probably going to stay up. I thought we defended patchily at times. Thought we were poor on the ball in certain moments. But in general, look, if you're bitching about scoring 5 goals, assess your life priorities, because we scored 5 and we could have had more. Cody, I don't know how he missed that one. But yeah, other than that, really good, solid win. Puts us in a really good spot to chase Villa down and see what the rest of the weekend brings him. It puts pressure on the others now because Chelsea and United have to keep pace with us because we're finally looking like there's goals in the side. It was nice to see 5 goals with 5 different scorers as well. It wasn't a case of you're depending on one person to get you out of jail all the time. And there was a beauty in there. There was a real beauty in that McAllister goal, the third one.
Yeah.
It was a ridiculous goal. The cushion pass, the position, the way McAllister was able to move his feet to generate that much power on the volley. Fucking great goal, that. So yeah, all in all, 3 points, 5 goals, happy.
Yeah. Look, I don't know, Chris. Are we the set piece FC now? Because feels like we're set piece FC. There's a wild stat in there from Michael Reed. I don't know if you can pull it up off the top of your head, but Liverpool become the very first team to score 7 consecutive Premier League goals from non-penalty set pieces. It's the longest run by any side in the competition's history. That feels like a fake stat, Chris, but it's a real stat.
Because
are we set piece FC?
Well, I think they've said since we sacked our supposed set piece coach, we've scored the most set piece goals in the Premier League since that point. So something's clearly working. It's probably an element of luck as well, but look, I'll take it. And look, do I think it was the best Liverpool performance I've seen? No. Was it miles better than last week? Yes, it was. But this is what we were saying. We've been saying for quite a bit of the season is, if you get your set piece goals together quickly, do you know what? It does half take some pressure off because early set piece goal for us, and then you go in, right, 1-0 up, build from there. And it just allowed us just to take all the pressure off every time. And it kind of destroyed West Ham's game plan. Because ultimately, as West Ham in the end get 2 in the second half, but I couldn't see Liverpool conceding 3 or 4. So when you get yourself 2-3 goals up at half time, you've got nothing to worry about. So look, take the win. I'm enjoying the win. I can't remember the last time I saw us score 5 goals. I had to Google, I think the last time we scored 3 goals in the first half was when we won the league against Tottenham. That's April. So again, take the positives where they are. Are there things that can improve? Yeah, but look, because we're in a race for top 4, you're not going to get regular performance. You're not going to get consistency. And I think if you're still pining for that at this point in the season, you're going to be disappointed. Ultimately, Kev's right. We've started to look like we've got a few more goals back in the side. And ultimately, we have taken advantage now of drop points. We've now got ourselves 3 points off third, which, let's be honest, probably around Christmas time, you wouldn't. So 3 points within third, and Villa looking a bit of free fall. And as Matt's rightly said, we're putting the pressure now on Chelsea and United because they have to react, because that's something Liverpool haven't done most of the season. But since the turn of the year, we've been reacting to opportunities when they present themselves. So happy days.
Yeah, happy days. Matt, there's another statistic in there that I threw in, which is basically that Liverpool are the second team in Premier League history to score 3 goals from corners in the first half of a match after Manchester United versus Leicester in 2016. Arne Slot has been at pains in the past to use the line that in the first half of games, we look for set pieces or moments of magic to change the game. That pretty much paid off today.
Yeah, I think it can pay off if you just approach the game slightly differently. I felt that we dictated the tempo a lot more in today's game than we have in other games, and we were able to ratchet up the pace of the play, which forces West Ham to not just sit in a hedgehog defensive formation and try to repel our attacks. And then to get them with like 3 sucker punches. I don't know if it's possible to actually sucker punch somebody 3 times. I think after the second one, they'd see it coming, and it would be hard to pull off a third one. But to get the goals coming from set pieces when you know that working off of set pieces would have been part of West Ham's game plan coming into the game. Don't give away anything silly, play for set pieces, slow the game down. And so we were kind of able to do both in terms of up the tempo, have a much more front foot press from our forwards. I think, Kev, you pointed that out pretty early on in the match, just how much more aggressive our press was coming from the front. And that just kind of changes the entire game, because then it's not so much a 50-50, those balls on the halfway line when you're pressing them in. It's all of a sudden 55 to Virgil and 45 to the, to the 40s going up against, and you're going to win more often than not in those battles just by a tiny change in how we're approaching the game. So, yeah, I mean, it's really good. For me, I really like the second goal. I thought that was the first thing I wrote down for it was just captain's goal. That's just, you want your captain to show up in a big moment. And, it doesn't seem huge, but a 1-0 lead, okay, it doesn't really change anything. But to make it 2-0 so quickly, it felt like afterwards, it was just a nice relief to have, because we haven't scored many first half goals. You had that stat up there, Ashley, that out of our first half goals, Ekitike's got 7 out of 13 of them on his own. So, we needed that early goal to get us off the mark, and then to get a second one from Virgil was just what the doctor ordered, because I don't know how anybody couldn't have enjoyed that game. I really that couldn't have been more the polar opposite. I couldn't take my eyes off of watching this game as opposed to the game last weekend against Notts Forest.
Kev, you were expecting.
You're picking on me, so you.
Well, it's Brian. He does these things.
Yeah.
It's a very nice haircut. Kev, you mentioned you enjoyed watching this match as well. Before I get to that, I want to make sure I mention something, because I forgot to mention it in the pre-match show, and I'm kicking myself. Today was the first time there was a British Sign Language interpreter for You'll Never Walk Alone. And I just wanted to make note of how wonderfully observed that was, how wonderful it's always wonderful at Anfield, but to have that addition, I thought that was really fantastic. That was an initiative that was set forward by the club. I don't know if there were fans that were partaking in it as well, but
Ashley, there was the camera scanned to Kenny Dalglish and his wife, and they were signing.
I love that. They
were doing it. The crowd were doing it. It was really taken up by the fans, and the fans got really into it. It was beautiful to watch it, and it was nice to have just the camera, commentators saying nothing, and they just stuck with it and they just showed it. It was beautiful. Loved it.
Yeah, I thought it was a really, really nice touch, and I'd love it to be something that kind of going forward is carried on by some of the people in the crowd. Let's talk about some of those early goals, Kev, so that you get the opportunity to kind of walk through them, because I know you're only here for a little while.
Yeah,
so
I've only got a
are
few
there
minutes.
any of the first half goals that you want to talk through? You can pick any of them.
On what Matt was talking about, I think it might have been it was either the first one or the second one. It was won by, I think it was the second one. Cody won a corner out of nothing. And then
yes, he goes on the outside for one of the first times that we've seen.
And it was just one of those balls. There was nothing on inside. He went on the outside, won a corner, and we had 3 corners in a row and scored on the third. That was Virgil's goal. And you're screaming at him to do that because, look, if there's nothing on, and Salah the same, if there's nothing on for you, take him on the outside. If you get a cross in, fine. There's someone going to be there. If you don't, you'll get a corner. And the way we're delivering the in-swingers, it's not with whip and extreme pace, as in fairness on Premier Sports at halftime, whoever the analyst that wasn't Kenny Cunningham was, made a great point about it. The pace on the delivery is such that you can attack it, but for a defender, it's very difficult to clear it because the pace isn't on the ball. You have to generate the pace as a defender, and coming through bodies to generate that pace. That's where the ball came for Gakpo to be able to keep it, or to Gravenberch to be able to keep it alive for Hugo's goal. Because of the pace wasn't on the ball, the defender couldn't generate the pace to clear the box. We were on the edge of the box. The ball went out to Hugo, and he slotted, got a deflection, but you buy a ticket, you win prizes. And you're 1-0 up. West Ham changed their game. They went for it more. As the game opened up, more chances came for us to be able to break as well. I loved the third goal. That McAllister's goal was phenomenal. I was delighted when I saw Frimpong coming on because he gives you that outlet on the right-hand side to be able to go past somebody. And when I was gutted for Trey when he came on because Frimpong put that on a plate for him, and I wanted him to come on with 5 minutes to go and affect the game. I was hopeful for that one. But look, unfortunately, I've got to go to work. I'm on nights tonight. So
can you give us your man of the match? Could do better.
Yeah,
and
sure.
Mention really quick before.
Yeah, man of the match. Man of the match, Hugo. I think. I thought he led the line really well. Got his early goal. Was busy. Kept the Sassy occupied most of the game. Was threatening all game. His pace. He looks so alive today. These are the type of games I think he loves. Honourable mention, McAllister. Great goal, great finish, work rate. Needs to be better defensively, but I think the way the game panned out, it wasn't that type of game. Could do better. Fuck me. I think Alisson, despite his really good save off Somerville, he gives me the heebie-jeebies with his footwork lately.
There was one with Bowen where, thank goodness he is a man of God because he was saved. He was saved there. 2 players.
West Ham are going to have a fire sale in the summer. Crescencio Somerville is as good as the hype says he is. I think he offers you a real threat off the wing. Needs to improve his finishing. And Jared Bowen, his ability to read the game. He was able to read that pass to cut it out from Gravenberch back to Van Dijk, that no-look pass that Gravenberch played, and he just cut it out. And the other one, the anticipation to block that clearance by Alisson. And plus the fact he's only 29. I'd sign him in the summer for 2-3 years and throw him into the mix with a front six, and I'd have no problem using him. I think he's really, really top talent, a top player. But anyway, look, guys, I got to go. Have a really good show.
Thank you, Kev. Thanks for popping on here.
No worries, guys. Talk to you guys later.
Be good.
Bye, Kevin.
Bye.
We'll continue to steer the ship without
Bye, Kevin.
Bye, Matthew. Bye, Christopher. Bye, Ashley.
Bye.
I'm just on Kev's Somerville shout. I mean, I didn't realize Somerville would. Did he say he's 29?
Bowen's 29.
Oh, Bowen's 29. Yeah, okay. Because I just looked up.
Yeah, no, Somerville is not 29.
Yeah,
24, I think.
Okay.
A little bit of background to this is West Ham might be in some serious financial trouble this year. They did have that sale of Paqueta, but I don't think that's going to save them from having to sell players, especially if they go down. If they go down, whole different can of worms. But I think there will be a fire sale down, Matt.
Oh yeah, there's some quite tidy players, I think, in that.
Fernandez is good. Fernandez is good for them.
Yeah, he he looked good last time we saw him. He was with Southampton, I think, wasn't he?
Yeah, he looks a tidy player.
Yeah. It's the same thing for me as the Somerville. Like in our WhatsApp group, Kev mentioned his Somerville show a little bit earlier, and as I said, like, you should have been looking at him the first time he was in the Premier League. I think it was with Leeds at the time 2 years ago.
I think we were.
But sometimes you do need that player to just sit and incubate for just a little bit longer at a slightly lower level to find their feet. And it seems like it's working out great for him. So it's unfortunate for West Ham, but there are definitely some players that are there. I mean, even Jared Bowen, if you can get him for, maybe not Liverpool, but if a team like Brentford can go and sign a player like Jared Bowen for next season, like he's going to prove to be a tidy Premier League player for somebody.
I still think for the Champions League squad, he's a good a rotational wide option.
Bowen, absolutely.
Bowen. Yeah, I think so. I think for any Champions League squad in England, he's a handy player to either start or throw on. He's the ultimate what we want as a squad player, which is if you put him in, you don't worry. You go, oh yeah, well he'll do his job. Or if he's got off the bench, you go in, oh fuck, Bowen up one, he'll do something. You kind of want that type of player, so he'd be good. I do think the striker they've got's really good. I think his nickname's Tatty.
Sorry, Dominic Calvert-Lewin just missed a golden opportunity to score.
Oh wow, that's worse than Gakpo.
I think that's a push, though. I think that would have been called back, even if he would have put that into the net for the push on Gahey that gets him into the space.
Yeah, maybe. He's in great form. Just a couple more words on some of those players. I think someone like a Somerville, I like him. I don't know. There's a lot of shouts for Mane from Wolves. I think that he's a little bit more of a rough diamond. I think if you were looking for a little bit more of a finished product in that younger age category of like 24 and under, I think I'd prefer Somerville over Mane. But if you were going to go for someone that was a little bit older, I think Bowen's a great shout. Chris, is there any of those set pieces that you want to talk through? Because you and I have this kind of bugbear with set pieces, or we have in the past.
Obsession is the word you're looking for.
Well,
Obsession.
I don't want to starve you of your opportunity to kind of talk through these 3 set pieces. So is there anything that you want to touch on before we move on to the second half? Because I do want to talk about sort of the drop-off in performance there.
There's a lot to like about all 3 because they're all 3 are different things and the things we've been saying for a while that we want to see. So for the first one, we kept it alive. I know some are saying, it left the box 3 times, but it's under, I think Michael reconfirmed it, under Octa, it's still classed as set piece goal because it's in and around the box and it's not
like the second phase.
Like second phase. It's a good spot by Grafenberch. Nice finish for Ekitike, just what he needs. The second one is just a classic header from your captain. They did try and look at chalking it off, but honestly, Gomez is not in the keeper's eye line and there's not a chance it impacts the keeper. He's never getting near that header.
You know what it is? It's a perfect mirror image to the goal that Virgil got chalked off at Manchester City.
Yep, exactly. Yeah. Yep. I love the third goal because it's just a clever routine, which is good crossing by Salah. It's the cushioned pass by Ekitike makes the goal, and then it's just a gorgeous finish. So I mean that is probably one of the best goals we've scored. One of the best goals we've scored this season. It's just a very, very clever routine. It's not the best. Unfortunately, the best goal we'll all forget about because we were shit the rest of the game. But it was just nice going in half-time 3-0 up, and I was like, first time since April we scored 3 before half-time. Yeah,
and I want to make sure we shout out Ekitike in that third goal because I thought the layoff that he gave to McAllister was so perfect. All of the credit goes to McAllister, rightfully so, and absolutely slamming it into the roof of the net. But I do think that Ekitike, it's one of those things they say about strikers where, they know how they would like to receive a ball prior to scoring a goal. So I want to make sure I give them a shout out. Matt, we go into the second half. I was full of optimism. I'm like, look at this. We're smooth sailing. Game felt pretty much won. I don't know what Arne Slot kind of put out to them at halftime, but it did feel like we were quite slow out of the blocks. And within 2 minutes, you have Fernandez passing over to how do you pronounce his name? Doof. And then he crosses across the 6-yard box to Souček, who finishes it off beautifully. That's Doof's 5th assist of this season. He's known for that kind of thing, but it was kind of a comedy of errors in the back. A little bit on Ibu, a little bit on Virgil, also a little bit on Gomez for not stopping that cross. Do you think that was just mentality slipping, or were you starting to get worried there?
I mean, the thing is if you're not going to put together like a perfect 90 minutes where you can come onto a show afterwards and be like, Liverpool did not put a foot wrong. Like in more games than not, you're going to have moments where you struggle. And all you hope for is that you do the work necessary so that you don't have to be shitting your pants the entire time that you're having an awful spell. And you do that by scoring 3 goals in the first half. So I'm willing to let those things go, because if you can't take this, the fact that, yeah, we didn't play great, we gave away kind of a sloppy goal. I think it's very well worked by West Ham, their first goal, actually. I mean, the cross from Diouf and then Souček sliding into it, like, it's very well timed. It's great play. I'm kind of okay with it. I don't think Liverpool were as bad as some people, it seems like, in the chat.
There's a lot of people that are very upset.
Like, I thought we were excellent. If you compare this to, I know it's a very low watermark, but last week's game against Notts Forest, and you just break it down by category, the passing, pace, attacking threat, like anything you want to do, I would say we were better by pretty much every metric. And we were quite good defensively against Notts Forest, but we were also, I found, half decently defensively sound tonight. Like, I think Milos Kerkez is just slowly starting to put together solid 7.5, 8 out of 10 performances, one after the other. That bodes well. It's very disappointing. I mean, I said literally like 2 minutes before they scored, I would really like to keep the clean sheet here because it would be 4 sheets in a row. But like, somebody in the chat said, like, it's a game where we scored 5 goals, but it somehow felt like we could still possibly lose that game. I did not have that feeling at all.
I think that's a little bit of, my opinion, that's a little bit of crying it in, and I think it's because the season, in my opinion, has been so underwhelming, and I think some people just have a certain opinion of the manager, and they're done with him, and that's fine. That's your opinion. That if you're like, no credit can be given, because this thing of like, we've never done a perfect 90 minutes. I don't think any side has. You will always be a 5-10 minute spell where you look a bit shit. It's sport. No one ever has a perfect 90 minutes. You like to have less issues, but ultimately, look, I can't get too upset or upset when Liverpool score 5. Ultimately, Liverpool have been what we've been frustrated with them, which is they were clinical. They took the chance, the chance that presented to them. They took all bar probably the Gakpo miss. I think other than that, they took the decent opportunities that were presented. Probably the Gakpo miss and then the only miss. Probably the only two you think, well, both of them they probably should have scored. So we could have been sat here going, 7-2. That's all right, isn't it?
Yeah,
5-2. I can't grumble too much. You know what I mean?
Well, you get into a situation where we've had, especially kind of coming onto these shows and talking, we've had so many matches coming on where there really has been something to grumble about. It really has been a shitty day. And when you do have a day that you score 5 goals, which is not every day for Liverpool this season, it's fine. We can look at all of the different arguments here. We can say maybe that the team wasn't as defensively solid as we would have liked and things like that. But at the same time, like, Matt, I do feel like you have to just kind of enjoy the moment every once in a while. Like, you can't just be glass half empty the whole time. Like, I know some people are done with our manager, things like that, but like, really.
Yeah, it's Pierce Richmond said in there, like, he's done with the manager, but there wasn't much to criticize today. And I would be kind of the same idea there. I think that there's more than enough talent and skill and threat in this team for us to play like that more often than not. Like, it was just such an emotional change from the team, just how they came out and played in the game entirely. They looked dangerous. They looked like they wanted to run. I think case in point is probably Cody Gakpo's game. I think even if you're a card-carrying member of the Cody Gakpo hater club, you have to say that he was lively today. He was dangerous today. He was willing to go on the outside. He was willing to cut in. He was using Kerkez with that overlap. And that threat, I mean, Mo Salah was still more miss than hit, which is
Mhm.
unfortunate. He kept trying, failing most of the time, but he kept trying. But I thought Gakpo was pulling it off today. And then Ekitike had one of those games. I mean, a goal and I believe 2 assists, it should count as for him. That's a pretty great game from your striker to lead the line. But like dropping deep, both of those players, and just taking us forward. And for me, really, it comes from at halftime. It was the biggest thing I noticed was the difference in Alexis McAllister and Ryan Gravenberch. They both looked like they were playing a last season game. Like that midfield three of Gravenberch, McAllister, and Dominic Szoboszlai won the Premier League fairly simply last season. That is a midfield winning, or that is like a championship winning midfield that we have right there. They haven't really been playing like it for large spells, with the exception of Szoboszlai, who's been excellent all season, basically. But today, I thought Alexis McAllister was getting absolutely kicked around the park, and that's always a good sign of Alexis McAllister. You got to see a couple of those silky spins on the half turn from Ryan Gravenberch, where he drops the shoulder and lets the ball roll past him and do the work for him, and beats a man and starts driving us forward. And to me, that's the difference, and that's why I don't think you can have much to complain about, because if that had been a stodgy performance like we saw against Notts Forest, but it was 3-1 and we had scored from 3 set pieces, they were our only chances in the entire game, and then we ship a goal to make it 3-1 3 minutes into the second half. In that case, I can see why you'd be like, uh-oh, here we go again. But to me, that wasn't that uh-oh Liverpool team. Is they looked like they just decided they were going to keep the foot down a tiny bit more, and instead of just trying to control the game out and potentially throw it away. So yeah, I really liked it.
Yeah, I liked it too. You know, there's still some people that are very upset in the chat, and that's fair. You're totally allowed to have that happen. Chris, Matt points out there that what?
Do you know what it makes me think of? I remember people feeling like this after we beat Roma 5-2. Remember on the Klopp? When it looked like it looked like a perfect performance until the last 15 minutes before we shipped in 2.
Yeah.
And you know, it just feels like one of those games where, you know, I find it hard to sort of look. We've had enough, and I mean, maybe it's because you meet us 3 TV shows. We've had to sit through enough turgid shit performances, shit results. I'm just going to enjoy the fact we scored 5 goals. We've got ourselves within 3 points of the top 3. We've got some exciting Champions League games to come up. I kind of just want to enjoy the moment. So I'm sorry, I know that's going to annoy some people because they'll call it happy clapper and all that, but you know, so be it.
I mean, look, there's things that we can criticize. We'll probably get to that in the post match show, which is over on our Patreon a little bit later after this show. This show really is dedicated to kind of like first reactions and things that we normally talk about. You know, Matt, I think you made a really interesting point there, talking about sort of our midfield harkening back to last year. You know, I thought our press looked so much better in that midfield. I think having Dominic Szoboszlai in that press makes that work. And I don't think it's any surprise that, you know, we look a little bit more front-footed when he is involved in that kind of higher up 8 role. You know, you talked a little bit about Gakpo there as well. Let's get on to the last couple of goals and talk about Gakpo's goal. So Ekitike is onto the second ball from a corner. He gives it back to Gakpo, who finally gets the slice of luck that Cody Gakpo has been looking for. He was 1 goal, 0 assists in 12 Premier League games going into this match. And he looked like, despite all of his best efforts, that he wasn't going to score. And we finally got this little slice of luck, got a deflection. The ball goes into the back of the net and Cody Gakpo gets his goal.
Yeah. What's that old saying? You know, he just needs one to go in off his arse. You know, just to break that little streak that he's been on. It's, I think, maybe hopefully the same thing for Mohamed Salah, like maybe just a ball taking a wicked deflection and going in and getting the credit for the goal does something to open up, because we know that Cody Gakpo can score goals in this league. You know, we know that. He's shown it for Liverpool. He's not the most prolific striker in the world, but he can and should be scoring more than he has been this season. So I hope that means that he goes on a little bit of a run, because you know that he's got to play. I mean, when it comes to the Champions League knockout games, he's going to be the starting left winger. It is not going to be, Rio Ngamoa, even though he had a lively cameo in his 15 minutes on the pitch. So it's, that bodes really, really well that there's the biggest complaint you can have might be, the wastefulness of Mohamed Salah or something like that. So, yeah.
What are you laughing at?
Sorry, lots of people are saying, well done to Queef Kettle and his partner for who've had a baby, and lots of social media accounts have also pointed out what happened 9 months ago. Won the league 9 months ago.
Well,
that celebration went well.
I feel like there was like a smattering of young Reds that were born directly 9 months after the first time we won the Champions League as well.
Yeah,
I think half of the team got their partners pregnant on that evening. So yeah, fair play to them.
They could definitely have a target there, can't they? Honestly.
Well, fair play to them. I'm not going to go too far into detail beyond that.
It's like a crash at full time.
Oh my goodness!
At the end of the season.
Enough said about that. Look, 75 minutes rolls on. We'll just talk through the last 2 goals, and then we'll kind of get on to more overarching topics and whatnot. So 75 minutes, there's a West Ham corner. After all of the good work that we've been doing at corners, we do give away a goal at a corner here. So it goes far post. Mavropanos is just wide open at the far post. I think Alisson was trying to get to that ball. He got caught up in sort of the melee that was in front of him, lost the flight of the ball, and Mavropanos just strokes it in. It's one of the easiest corner goals that you're ever going to see.
Yeah, I mean, it's across the literally beat everybody, because you can see, and I think Gravenberch's on the post, so he probably can't get out quick enough. To be fair to the West Ham player, it's a good header. And there's also just the law of average. You will concede off set pieces at some point. I mean, the fact is, I think that's only like I think since Briggs left, I think it's like the 3rd or 4th goal we've conceded from corners. It's not very many. So
I don't know off the top of my head.
It was one of those things. It was more of an annoyance than oh fucking hell, I'm worried now. I think both West Ham goals felt more like annoyances than this is the start of a collapse or anything like that.
Yeah.
That's all it felt. I think that's why it's probably took a little bit of the shine off the game, because you're a bit like, probably both goals were quite avoidable. But to be fair, if we're being perfectly honest, if you're doing a West Ham podcast, you could look at some of the Liverpool set piece goals going, they're quite avoidable if you defend properly. So
yeah, I mean, if I'm on a West Ham podcast, thankfully I'm not. But I would be pointing out, that our XG was, relatively similar. They actually had the better XG over us. We had more shots. We had more shots on target. But in general, it was, the scoreline made it seem like it was a really sort of one-way performance, Matt. And I don't know if it was a one-way performance. The one thing that was nice with the Reds is that every time that West Ham did go and get that goal that kind of made it feel a little bit dramatic, they immediately went and rectified the situation. And we get that final goal on 82 minutes. Cody Gakpo is involved again. He had a fantastic little threaded pass all the way through the box over toward Frimpong, who had just come on. I was a little bit worried about whether or not that was going to be a good substitution at that point in time. But Frimpong, I think for the second time in that game, just really ghosted past a couple of defenders. I think it was a cross, but we'll give it to him as a shot. It ricochets. It ends up being an own goal. I think it's Disasi that it ends up going off of. I'm not 100% sure, but it goes into the back of the net, and Frimpong, back from injury, kind of puts the gloss on their performance. Just general thoughts on the goal, general thoughts on having Frimpong back, how you thought he looked, and overall.
Another very close one. I gotta say something about XG. I don't mind XG. I don't mind using advanced statistics to give you a little bit better grasp of what may have happened in a game that you maybe didn't watch. But in a game that you watch, to hear that West Ham had a higher XG than we did, I can see why people think that's a garbage statistic. Because I don't see how. I get that, we have a couple of turnovers. Gravenberch has the one terrible short pass to Virgil that leads to a chance for them. Alisson basically tries to roll the ball in off of their forwards' feet into his net. And then in the lead up to the corner that results in their second goal comes following Alisson making a really good save off of, I think it was Somerville, that cuts inside and forces a really sharp save off Alisson. They score from that corner. But that save is only because the ball managed to bounce off of two different players' heels and just lands at Somerville's feet, and he scores from there. So I wasn't worried about either their two goals. You want to see them defend corners better, but at the same time, like you pointed out, they would be saying the same about theirs, because I think Virgil's movement in the lead up to the second goal is perfect. Like, I think that was straight off the training ground, our second goal. Virgil near post, little flick header, Ekitike wide open at the back post, McAllister in space coming on to the knockdown from Ekitike. Like, I think Lieutenant Mahoney will be very happy about how that one turned out. Frimpong, you can be forgiven for forgetting how friggin' fast this guy is. The show that you were on with Kev and Gizmo the other night, talking about, potential summer transfer targets going forward, Kev was preaching the gospel of pace and how much we were missing that in this team. And yeah, there was 2 times in this match where Jeremy Frimpong just stands his defender up and just says, "I'm so much faster than you, and I'm just getting around you, and there's nothing that you can do about it." So I thought that was promising. It's great to see him back, because he does give us that injection of pace that otherwise the team is quite missing, even though you shouldn't be glossing over the contribution that Joe Gomez put in at right back. Joe Gomez was excellent today. He has that one chance there. That might be his greatest ever chance to score, where the ball's knocked down to him in the box and he's about 14 yards out and he pivots and he shoots.
I'm telling you, he's going to score 1 goal for Liverpool, and it's going to be someone that wins us a cup.
I hope so. I feel like
that's the only time he scores. Doesn't do anything else. That's it. He just goes and just dines out on the after dinner.
He will never ever score.
Well, it was it was Simicast, wasn't it? Like, was it a goal or an assist for the cup game? And that's like his one shining glory moment.
Yeah, he's got a winning penalty in the FA Cup final. He's got an assist in the League Cup final. And you're going like, well, they're not bad.
Fair play. Thankfully Joe Gomez has more to his repertoire than just missing goals, but it does feel like he gets a nosebleed when he gets a little bit too close to goal.
If you talk about the XG thing, I think it's also like all statistics. Context is king. You can't say, well, West Ham had a higher XG than Liverpool, so West Ham were doing better for Liverpool. It doesn't quite work like that, because if you look at the 2 goals West Ham scored, the first one has a probability of scoring of 80%. It's as near a tap-in as you can get. And I think the back post one was also a high one. Outside of that, all the other shots they had were, A, weren't many, and B, were very, very low percentage chance of scoring. So it sort of makes their average a lot better. Liverpool had a bigger volume of chances, and headers have a lower XG, and own goals don't really have an XG, because what's the expected goal of an own goal? Well, you don't really expect an own goal. You can't literally expect one. It's so it's like the context of it as well. That's because ultimately Liverpool had 7 shots on target to their 2, and they literally scored their 2. So that's kind of the way it works.
Look, ultimately, it's not about XG. It's not about, whether or not their opportunities on goal were kind of more glaring. I guess that's why that XG is higher. They had higher value chances than we did in front of goal, but it doesn't really matter, Matt. It's about the points on the board. Let's sort of come at this from a little bit more of a meta perspective in terms of what this means for Liverpool going into this next week with the double game against Wolves. So we saw last night that Villa dropped points to Wolves, and you went early with a very bold and what looks accurate claim of Villa being the one that possibly drops out of this top 4, top 5 race. The thing with Villa is they were, speaking of XG, they were really outscoring their XG for quite a long period of time, like to the point where it was almost silly. And they really have kind of just reverted back to mean. They are, kind of right in line with their expected average per game. So you're seeing them start to drop more and more points. You're seeing Liverpool start to put together points, in these kind of tougher games that, these lower bottom half of the table teams were our kryptonite for a little while. And we're sort of getting through these games, one way, whether it's the way that we did it against Forest or the way that we did it today against West Ham, sort of 2 polar opposites. But what does this mean sort of for Liverpool? Are we gaining a little bit of momentum? Is it too early to read into it?
No, there's 10 league games to go. Like, we are very quickly approaching the final quarter, the home stretch of this season, and there is a race for Champions League football there. There is a race for, £100 million worth of revenue into the club. It's massively important. I just think Villa has been far too yo-yo this season. You've seen it with their results. I think they were in the bottom 3 after 5 games. Then
they had no wins.
Then they won 8 games in a row. You know, they went on the longest winning streak, I believe, of any team so far in the league this season. And now I think they've dropped points in all but one of like their last 5 or 6 games. Like
something like that, yeah.
They've been very much like this. And now they're at a nadir. They're at a low point. And your 3 options are they stay there, they go back to kind of average, or they have another really good run. 2 out of 3 of those mean that Villa's going to drop more points than they take points. So that puts the pressure on them. We'll see how much new manager bounce is left in the 2 managers at Manchester United and Chelsea. But all you can do is put points on the board. Last weekend, it was one of those grin and bear it, just be philosophical about it, because the team was pretty diabolical in that game. And we managed to get out of Notts Forest with the 3 points. And that's one of those games where it's like, it doesn't matter how you perform. You just want the points. But we still have shit to play for this season. We're not going to win the Premier League, but we're not going to win the Champions League or the FA Cup. Is like, so we do need to want this team to hit a groove, because if you can put a run of games together, coming from a North American sports background, it's a team that gets hot going into the playoffs. You get hot going into the playoffs and anything can happen. And we're approaching playoff time now.
It's like PSG in the Champions League last year. They got hot at the right time. I mean, the other thing for Villa is they've got Chelsea at home next, and then the next league game is Man United away. So literally, from Liverpool perspective, in the next 2 games, all the lads around you are playing each other. So
Chelsea play Arsenal tomorrow.
So they're all going to drop. One of them's going to drop points at some point. So again, take advantage. The other thing I also thought with Villa, you and me had this conversation as well, which is even when they're on this winning streak, it felt very much Man United Solskjaer, where you went, it's scoring a worldie, and you keep it being man the match, and you
Morgan Rogers was carrying them for a while,
and you're a bit like, at some point that's not sustainable. To be fair, we had similar conversation about Liverpool when we kept winning games in the last minute, going like, can't keep doing that. At some point, you're going to get caught out, and it happens. And you felt that with Villa. At some point, they're going to get unstuck.
Mm-hmm.
So look, the good thing for Liverpool is they've managed to get themselves into a position where they can take advantage of it. It's been an absolute horror show now. We were sat here going, we're 10 points behind them, and they're playing shit now. And actually now it doesn't matter because we can't take advantage of it. You know, we've got the gap back to 3. That's the way to look at it, I would say.
Yeah, I mean, there was a very real possibility just a couple of weeks ago where we were sitting, well outside, where we were, Villa felt like they were far and away. They were title challengers at that point. Things can change. Look, I want to finish up with our man of the match, could do better, and honorable mention, because I missed this last week and I want to make sure I don't miss it this week. So Matt, I'm going to come to you on this first. Sorry, you just got your final say there. So Matt goes next.
I'm going to take everybody. No, I think the correct answer for man of the match, if you're going to take it very seriously, is in fact Hugo Ekitike. I just think the numbers that he puts up on the board in terms of a goal and 2 assists and the role that he played in getting those is just undeniable. He's man of the match. I would give my honorable mention, though, to Alexis McAllister. A lot of that is because he's had a few down performances in a row. So the fact that he's had a good performance today, it looks like he's had this massive improvement maybe, but I'm okay with that.
Is that because of the midfielders around him, do you think? Like he's back to his normal role where he's shown last year?
I don't think so. I think it's just maybe a little bit of trust in his body. The fact that he finished last season where he got absolutely kicked up and down the entire country, like home and away, pretty much 38 matches, him getting booted and just fouled constantly, that you hear that he has that hernia operation in the off season. Clearly he's going to be a little bit more reluctant to be that kicking post for the entire team when he got injured last season doing that exact same thing. So him being more involved in the match and getting us moving forward, being in the box, attacking, it might just be that goal that he scores, the late winner against Notts Forest, is like the boost to his confidence that he needs to push on, because like I said, this is literally a midfield 3 that won us the Premier League. So we know they're good enough. They just need to play a little bit better. And in terms of the could do better, it just has to be Mohamed Salah. Just not coming off for him. There a couple moments where he really looked like he was going to get something. And the final dribble, the final man he tries to beat just doesn't come off. He cuts in off the right side and tries to curl a left-footed shot at one point, and it goes high, wide, and handsome that we've seen too many times. But some of the balls he was playing, though, I thought were much better today. That most passing range was actually a little bit better. But you just want to see at least one more of those trademark Mo Salah left-footed goals curl into the top corner. Like just give us one more.
Yeah, you could tell he was desperate today. I think currently he's on a no goals in 9 Premier League games. I mean, I guess
10,
it'll be 10
yeah.
after today, which is his longest dry spell in the Premier League. And I'm sure he knows that. And you could see in that one opportunity that he had to sort of have that Chelsea goal again, that, he kept drifting in and he wanted to get that shot across. But by the time he got the shot off, it was almost gone. The shot was almost gone at that point. But, you never know. I do think it's a little bit about platforming with Mo. And I think having Szoboszlai behind him, having a recognized right back behind him, possibly in a Frimpong coming up into the next couple of games, I think that could help him. I think if Frimpong can run up and create a little bit of space for Mo Salah, I think that could help. So we'll see. We'll see what happens at the end of this season. Chris, you're next. Man in the match. Could do better. Honorable mention.
Took all mine. So
you have to
all
get
the low-hanging fruit there.
That's fine.
Absolutely,
get creative.
Absolutely no bed. Honestly.
All right. Too late.
Man of the match. Matt is the correct answer, but I'll give it to McAllister because I thought he was excellent. Hugo is the right answer, but I'll just, to be different, I'll say McAllister. Honorable mention, Kirkus. I thought Kirkus did well because Bowen's a fucking nightmare. And I mean that in a positive way. He's an absolute nightmare to deal with. And I thought he dealt with Bowen pretty well. Could do better. The answer is Mo, but I thought Gravenberch was a little bit underwhelming. I think defensively, and even for the first West Ham goal, he's in centre-back position. He doesn't really seem to know what's around him, and he's also quite close to the second goal. So possibly because he's at the scene of the crime. But that's nitpicking. But, to be honest, the 3 Matt pick are probably the right answer, to be fair. Who are yours are?
Yes!
Yeah.
In your face! 100%.
It's the only time Matt's been right.
Oh, jeez. That's okay. No. It's fair. The nice thing is that we are having trouble kind of picking, could do betters and things like that. Kev mentioned Allison. I think that one moment that Allison just passed the ball to Bowen is enough of a reason to kind of call him out for that. Gravenberch, I do think, has been going a little bit missing in games recently. And I think a lot of people are starting to see that. I don't know if people just recognize his game now and figure out ways to kind of cut him off a little bit, but he just doesn't seem to be taking control the way that we used to see Gravenberch do last year. And then obviously Mo Salah speaks for himself. And that's, I think Slot was correct in saying that, he does set his own lofty standards, but at the same time, let's call a spade and say that Mo Salah, this isn't about lofty standards. This is about Mo Salah just not being at the required level at the moment. And I can't quite put my finger on why. He is fasting right now. I don't know if that has any role to play. Valid. And so is Ibu, who, I think if we're going to throw in another kind of honorable mention, I think Ibu is putting together quietly a run of games where he feels kind of back to the Ibu that we know and love. Obviously he had that horrible moment with his family and took his time, but since coming back, I think him and Virgil, outside of the horrible corner that we conceded, and the goals that happened today, I think that they look better. They look better. We're still in situations where we are trying to present goals on silver platters. Today, that was Allison's fault, but I do think that defensively we have looked a little bit better. Guys, we have a couple minutes left here before we move on to Patreon. Chris, I will come to you first on this. Is there anything that you want to talk about here on YouTube before we head over onto Patreon? Any sort of final thoughts, things you want to look out for the rest of the weekend? Anything? Floor is yours.
I'm intrigued to see what he rotates for Wolves, both Wolves games, because by the sounds of it, looks like Florian Wirtz is definitely not going to be playing Tuesday and he's going to be tight for the FA Cup game. If I'm honest, if he's tight for the FA Cup game, they're not going to risk him. So ultimately, we're not going to see Florian Wirtz until hopefully Galatasaray, but I would say only on the bench. So I'll be intrigued to see how much he rotates for Tuesday compared to Friday. I think Tuesday he'll still go probably as strong as he can. As in,
I think for the league he'll go strong.
I don't see many changes from today's team. Depending on Joe Gomez back up.
Maybe like a Curtis Jones comes in because he was one that didn't come on at all.
Yeah, today. I think so. I think maybe because the game was won as well, it was give a couple of youngsters a chance. I think the game was tight. I think you'd have seen Curtis Jones. So he might be one to bring in just to give us a bit of freshness. And then I think for the FA Cup game, I think that's when you'll see Robson start, maybe Gomez at centre back, Frimpong start, Chiesa start, Rio start. I think they'll all get starts in the FA Cup game. So, but yeah, that's the only shame. That's probably the only shame, really, is that it looks like this is going to be a little bit longer than we all would like.
Yeah, I mean, back injuries are tricky, and I'm sure it's sort of just like a day by day basis for that. Matt, kind of final words here on YouTube before we head over onto Patreon. We are going into sort of our first big busy week after 3 or so weeks of, time off, going and working on the training ground, having some players get some days off. How do you feel kind of going into this next little chunk of games?
Well, I don't feel quite as good about back-to-back games against Wolves in League and Cup as I would have 4 weeks ago, because I was out moving snow around yesterday, but I had the game on while I was in the tractor and was watching it, and Wolves have tidily, just quietly turn the corner a little bit here. It's too late. They're done. They are, in fact, going down. But they were handy against Villa yesterday.
They were good against Arsenal.
And their midfield of Joao Gomez, Bellegarde, and Andre, who old transfer favorite of mine, they really kind of bossed Aston Villa's midfield around. So I wish this was the Wolves team that people were wondering could possibly, challenge that Derby record for fewest points in a season. That's not going to happen now, because they're at the magical 13. They're over the line. Wow, Leeds I don't know how Leeds are not beating Manchester City.
They have had opportunity. I mean, it could have been like 4-0 at this point.
The Arsenal fans are furious at this because they know that it means
absolutely shitting themselves.
Aronson was offside there anyways, but yeah, it's now rubber hitting the road time. Like, you're getting into the final rounds of the FA Cup. You're into the knockouts of the Champions League. We've got 10 games to go in the season. This is, I wish I had memorized the speech that Bill Paxton character gives at the start of Edge of Tomorrow with Tom Cruise. Like, this is the crucible of history, basically. Like, this is shit or get off the pot time. We'll see whether or not this team is made of steel or not, because that's a big save. Like, just about. Oh, this is a very good game. My apologies. I'm allowed to watch things, just not you, actually. Keep your eyes forward.
No, we're good. We're good.
I think it's a real important time. So if this team can find a little bit of confidence and a little bit of form, and a couple of those players, Cody Gakpo and Mohamed Salah, can break their little hoodoos that they're in terms of in front of goal, and hopefully Gakpo, that was what happened today, it could set us up for quite an enjoyable end to what at times this year felt like an interminable season. You think back to November, you were probably thinking, my God, how many more games of this do we possibly have to watch and talk about? And now it's like, here we go. So yeah, rubber hit the road time.
Yeah. I mean, I like your optimism. That's what we've missed. We've missed your optimism here on this channel. We're glad to have you back. Look, guys, I think we'll close up on that. We need a couple minutes just to kind of transition over onto Patreon. I like kind of ending on this positive note. A lot of times, actually, if I was listening to the Feyenoord fans from, 2 years ago, prior to Slot coming in, they were adamant that Arne Slot, in a typical season, you see a real uptick in the second half of a season. So if he struggles in the first half of a season, then typically he kind of rectifies it in the second half of the season. So I'm going to go with Matt here and kind of lean toward optimism. We have a little bit left to go, but 10 games left, Chris. I think let's just hope for the best here. Today was a good performance, not fantastic, but good performance. I think anytime you score 5 goals, you got to be happy. So far so good for the Reds. We have put the pressure on tomorrow. I think eyes will all go over toward that Chelsea match. Let's see what United can put together. But for now, the Reds are on the road to recovery, is what I'll say. I'm optimistic that they're on the road to recovery.
It's not quite as good as the Reds are on the road to glory, is it?
You know what? It's better than they're on the road to hell, because honestly, that was the road that we were on. So I will take the road to recovery. Let's sign out here. We're going to move on to Patreon. For anyone that is on YouTube that wants to continue this chat, we will move on over there. There is a link down below in our description. I can throw it up on the screen as well. So if you want to continue the conversation, you're welcome to, but again, no pressure. I think Matt's going to be hosting that one, so I'll be able to talk a little bit about the game as well. Chris will be there as well. And then tomorrow we will have the guys back for our normal Sunday night show. You will get 3 different perspectives as well. So yeah, full weekend full of content, and we will continue over on Patreon. For now, Chris, can you take us out of here? You have the controls today, so friendly reminder. All right. Thank you guys, everyone. Thank you in the chat. Thank you, Chris. Thank you, Matt. And thank you, Kev, who is off at work. See you guys later.